Well, calling it art may be pushing it, but out of the 400 business models I analyzed, there were definitively some characteristics of success that kept repeating themselves. These were the choice of a sustainable purpose that was recognized by your customers and easily related to your business activities. It was the ability to align sustainable effort with financial viability, and last but not least, to take a holistic perspective on your value chain and your stakeholders. You might be asking why I analyzed 400 and didn't settle with less. Students at my university had gathered these models for 5 years, and I could simply not help myself. The same happened during my interviews. I got addicted, and I've carried out over 30 in-depth interviews. Needless to say, I learned a lot from people a lot more knowledgeable than myself. One of them, my professor, made the point of choosing a sustainable strategy that your paying clients value and that closely links to what you do. Interestingly enough, the issue of whether clients would be willing to pay extra for sustainability was the thing that people I interviewed doubted the most. Consumers with strong purchasing power can be the shakers and movers, but are they willing to pay? We also know that there are people who cannot afford to support it, and this dimension became essential to my work. It almost divided my data in two. 80% could clearly be attributed to doing sustainable efforts that reflected their clients' preferences on price, divided down the middle with roughly 40% on each side. One side working on the empowerment of people, decent working condition, or by improving access and affordability of products and services. The other side by taking more ownership of negative externalities, reducing the social and environmental footprint of their business, activities, and therefore also of their customers. Through local presence and production, by delivering services instead of products, sharing resources, and reducing waste through models emerging as part of the circular economy. This takes me back to San Diego, June 2013, where my journey began. The final session of day 1 at the Sustainable Brands Conference was about to close. It was a discussion with one of my personal heroes, William McDonough, at the forefront of circular economy thinking and design. To my disappointment, they only had time left for one question from the audience, and I had already gotten up from my seat, holding the mic when the moderator made an attempt to close the session. Stubborn as I am, I started talking into the microphone, politely demanding my question, as I had traveled all the way from Norway. To everybody's surprise, I got my question, which led Mr. McDonough into a reflection that I've been told added value to the entire discussion. And I'm glad it did, because after that, I had no problems in convincing people to sit down with me for an interview. But as I mentioned, interviewing brilliant people became an addiction, and I continued long after having left the conference. Another highlight in my journey was my interview with the mother of sustainable development. I was sitting outside in the garden, waiting for my interview. She'd made time for me straight after a historian who was there to immortalize her political career. I felt tiny in comparison. The next hour, she took me through her 30 years of experience, running back to the origin of the term sustainable development up till today. She reminded me that successful regulations are the outcome of successful collaboration between all relevant parties in society. In sustainable business, though, everything comes back to what your competitors do. But if society at large succeed at supporting sustainability through regulations that ensures nobody is left behind, it will change the way we do sustainability, from broad efforts mainly done by the first mover within an industry to having several players within that same industry compete to find their unique opportunity for incorporating sustainability into their business. Well, I created a framework where the dimension of collaboration in society driving the critical mass of companies and the consumer's will to pay for sustainability intersect. We will not spend a lot of time on it, but it looked like this. If customers have a low will to pay for sustainability and society discourage it, we will be in the corner of Peter Pan, living in his imaginary world and refusing to change. Next up, you have Pinocchio. He has realized that his customers are interested in the topic, and therefore he talks about it. Prince Charming, on the other hand, walks the talk. He will sweep his customers off their feet by making their lives more convenient. In return for their loyalty, he will take full ownership and responsibility. Pocahontas, catering to the needs of those who cannot afford sustainability, believe in fairness and equality. Everybody has the right to enjoy the fruits of nature, and in return should take their part of protecting it. Prince Charming and Pocahontas innovates in two different directions, and this brings me to talking about how sustainability should align with profitability. The prince gets paid for providing better service, while Pocahontas is building a future marketplace through the empowerment of people. My mentors talk about how responsibility has to be integrated into your business model rather than being perceived as a side dish. It is nice if you want to support the local football team, despite having your business in the banking sector, but this should be considered marketing and not part of your strategic CSR. They argue that responsibility serves as a link between a company's strategy and its business model, and that a strong sense of responsibility will improve a company's financial performance. And there are dozens of studies who support this, both through showcasing stronger performance and reduced share price volatility among responsible companies. At this point, it is recognized as bad business sense to not take into consideration the risks involved in business as usual. There is a great opportunity to turn business around. Sustainability serves as a new lens to innovation. It gives us an excuse to rethink what we have been doing and brings me to the need for a holistic perspective on sustainability. It is a broad topic, and nobody is nor should be perfect. It will be a field where we continuously strive to get better, deepening our understanding as we go. Not unlike many of the people I talk to, I started my journey resenting Toms. How could they ship off free shoes to third world countries and market themselves as heroes in the developed world, when in reality they were taking away the incentives of local shoe producers and discouraging development? They were not solving the underlying problem, which was poverty. They were giving shoes. It comes back to the old saying, give a man a fish, you have fed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, and you have fed him for a lifetime. To succeed with sustainability, you have to acknowledge the long-term effect you have on everybody your business interacts with. What are you giving to your stakeholders, and what are they giving back, or to each other? Relationships are key, and eventually my relationship with Toms improved. It turns out that not only have they responded to the feedback they have been given and started local shoe production, they have also made it possible for us to have these kinds of discussions and reflections on how to achieve the greatest impact of our efforts. Thanks to them, we have a broader view of things, which brings me to the missing 20% of my data. So the ones that were not Pocahontas or Prince Charming, what were they? A group of Robin Hoods, redistributing value from those who have a lot to those who have less, often with the approval of their clients in the developed world because their purpose was recognized. For example, as wearing Tom's shoes makes people feel better about themselves because morally good behavior boosts social approval. The initial title of my thesis evolved around current and next practices in sustainable business model innovation. And what was particularly interesting to see was that there was a strong emerge of Robin Hoods in my data from the year of 2004. But none before that. What does that tell us? Well, I don't know the answer, but give me a couple of years and I'll come back to you. But what I think we can take away right now is that globalization, technology, and knowledge has made it easier for us to connect consumers in the developed world with the beneficiaries in the other end of the value chain. We see that a responsible procurement and value chain actually increases our performance with customers, and that the Robin Hoods serve as examples of untraditional ways of coupling the innovation previously attributed to either Pocahontas or Prince Charming, which can only be done successfully if you have a holistic view of your entire value chain, including all your stakeholders. This also makes sense for the field of business model innovation itself, as about 90% of new business models are recombinations of already existing model patterns. In this sense, Robin Hood is showing a trend in where these new combinations will take place, but he has also a huge challenge that we can help him with. Robin Hood has a profit dilemma. Every Robin Hood I have talked to believes so deeply in their cause that they don't desire profits. At the same time, society perceives them as noble and morally good, and a money reward would destroy that and is hard to claim. We think social approval is enough to keep Robin Hoods going, and that might be true. But if we want them to scale and make even more impact, we have to allow responsibility and profitability to go hand in hand. One of the ways good business can conquer bad business is by making profit, and you can do something about it. We have it in us to be the generation that can turn business around for the better. Put your money where it means something.